Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Zaragoza. Thanks so much for coming on the show to talk about New Year's resolutions.
Glad to be here, Sally.
It'll be fun to piggyback it on my session with Jan, because hers was obviously finance-based. So this is going to be kind of student-oriented, parent-oriented maybe, but not about the finances. So hopefully more fun. Our stuff might be more.
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay. All right. So what do you think is sort of the first resolution, like especially for seniors? They're heading into a super stressful time, or they're in the middle of it. If they applied early, some of them are getting denied or deferred right now. It's really stressful. Others are wrapping up their application. So what's a nice kind of New Year's Eve resolution that?
Yeah, when I think into resolutions, you think of that word solution within resolution, and you're here trying to solve a problem. And these past 2 years, year and a half, have been incredibly difficult. And I think it's caused the whole world, especially seniors, to stress out, to anxiety levels have been raised to the nth degree for a lot of reasons. And so I think a great solution, a great resolution, would be to resolve to relax a little, to have some fun, because the world has not been fun. And I think in order to remedy that, you do need to take off a bit of the stress, and make sure that you're spending quality time with your friends, with your family, and relaxing. And even if you think about how a lot of students have been spending their summers, we always tell them, hey, be productive, as you're gearing up for college. Well, this is your chance to not necessarily be productive, to let off a little steam, relax, and enjoy that last summer before college. I think that would be a really great solution for a lot of students.
I completely agree. I told you this story, but I think it's an instructive one for our audience too. A student of mine, he was going off to Dartmouth, very ambitious, very smart, great kid. And, he's into Dartmouth. I'm like, you're awesome. This is so good. I'm so glad for you. And, but, I'm here if you have any questions. So he emails me about possible internships, and, he's a senior. I was like, John, this is your chance to relax, to do something you just want to do that's not going to help you in the future in any career-oriented sense at all. And I knew this particular young man was really into the outdoors. He loved it, and I'm like, from here on out, you're not going to be able to take a month-long trip into the wilderness. So do it. Go get yourself lost in the woods of New Hampshire or Maine. And I know that you love to do that. This is your chance. You're going to be doing internships in Manhattan after this. You're not going to have time. And I was super happy to find out that he ended up taking my advice. He went for the big internships after he got to college, but his parents told me that, like, yep, he was like, she's right. I can take a break. I'm like, this is your chance. And he did it.
That is awesome. Because it doesn't come again. It doesn't come around again very easily, as you and I know. And no one's going to be asking or have that expectation that you will have, stuck to the grindstone that summer.
Yeah, exactly. That is the one summer where you're just not going to have to account for it all. It doesn't mean that you can't, like, do the Peace Corps sometime, or I don't know, do something like that. That's hopefully is going to be intriguing in a different way. But yeah, nobody is going to be asking you what you did with that particular summer. Or if they do ask and you tell them you did something fun, they're going to be happy about that and impressed with that.
Yeah. Especially, these past 2 years, we've all been expected to go to the nth degree in everything that we do, whether you're a student, whether you're a parent, whether you're working, and all that productivity has already taken place to a certain degree. So enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that you bring up another. I mean, you bring up a really good point that this has just been a really challenging couple of years for most people for a whole variety of reasons. So the other thing that I wanted to emphasize was being willing to ask yourself for help, or ask others for help if you need it. Give yourself permission to ask for help. I was wondering if you have senses of, if you've kind of experienced a reluctance to do that with any of your students or.
Absolutely. And this has been difficult for a variety of different reasons. One is, the virtual environment we're in, you've lost a lot of that personal contact. And sometimes I think a lot of students have forgotten to ask for that help, because they've had less access to, to their teachers, to those who could help them in a variety of different ways. It almost seems as if, for many of us, for a lot of people throughout the world, we've been isolated, and we've all had to do things ourselves. And it's hard to relearn what it's like to be within a community, and to relearn what it is to ask for help, to have someone guide you through certain things. And so I think that is something that we all have to become accustomed to again, is that we're not necessarily all out striking it on our own, that we are still members of a community. And if you're a member of an academic community and you're a student who's struggling, definitely ask for that help. Absolutely.
And I want to be clear too, that you don't have to, struggling doesn't have to mean you're getting Fs. Struggling can just mean that it's taking you a little longer to learn a subject than you think it should. You're not really sure how well you're doing. You might be fine, but you're not sure. That's a great reason to go and ask for help. I mean, I talked to a young woman who wasn't going to use the tutoring services at her college because she was like, well, I can teach it to myself eventually. And yet she wanted to drop a class because it was too heavy of a workload. I was like, I'm sorry, please explain this to me. I'm not trying to say you're wrong, but I don't get it. And she said, well, it just takes me a while, but I get there. And I'm like, well, that's a great reason to use a tutor. They can help you like shorten the process a little bit, given that you've got this very heavy course load. And I said, if you really need to drop that class, but there's an interim step, which is asking for help. And I said, I personally think, I looked up all the resources at her college. And I said, personally, I think you should be on first name basis with all the people who work at these places until you feel like you're really confident that you can handle it, because that's what they're there for. And she just sort of she felt like she had to be failing to ask for help,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in contrast to that, Sally, given that we've all been home for the past two years, sometimes we've gotten used to the people in our pod, our parents, and those who are around us, and have been relying upon them. And it can be hard to get back into the groove of things in terms of immersing ourselves back into the world out there. So I think another really great resolution in contrast to that would be, hey, strike it out on your own for a little bit, when the setting permits. If you've been vaccinated and you're able to go out and immerse yourself in things that you haven't been able to do for the past 2 years, make that a resolution that, hey, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get away from my parents for a little bit, give them a break, and give myself a break from the places where we have been immersed in. And we've been kind of cocooned a little bit. So a great resolution is to break out of those cocoons and have the freedom to go out and explore and do the things that we haven't been able to do for the past 2 years.
Yeah, I think the example of spending a couple of weeks away from your parents is a really important one. I've found that students who don't do that are often students who drop out of college, not because they can't handle the academics, but because they can't handle the social adjustment. I had a student who actually went to Princeton, but his mother was, I will just be blunt, she was very overprotective. I mean, she didn't even want to let him go on sort of typical senior trips and things like that. And you know what? One semester across the country from her was too much, and he came back. Like it was an interesting situation, and I'm quite sure that she was disappointed. Like that was her dream, which was probably part of the issue. Is maybe it was more her dream than his dream, so. But yeah, take those steps out, push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Those tiny moments outside of your comfort zone will prepare you for the bigger one of going to college.
Absolutely. And then you bring up parents, and that parent who is having a little bit of difficulty letting go. There are resolutions that parents can make too. I would say this has been a stressful time for everyone, and I think for parents, being able to let your child go on these adventures is another great resolution, is giving them that permission to do that. But also thinking about the college admissions process, and we've all been locked in our homes to a greater degree than usual, and that causes a lot of stress, and it certainly does cause a lot of stress in terms of the college admissions process. And I would probably say, for parents, perhaps make a resolution to talk about other things than college. If you've got a senior and or a junior, and you've been talking about that, for the past couple of years, take a break from that. See them as your child, and really step away from the college admissions process and the stress involved with that. There's nothing wrong with giving them a little bit of breathing room there too.
Yeah. I mean, I think that promising your kid, if you're somebody who has to talk to your kid about the college process regularly, then schedule time to do it, and so that they're not afraid that it's going to hit them at any moment. I think that's a really important thing to note. Another thing I would say for parents is, resolve. This is more, this is really for any age group. Look beyond the rankings, look beyond the college rankings. I have a lot of parents who get really stuck on that, and they don't even always want to admit it. Like they feel like, well, it doesn't have to go to an Ivy, you can go to Tufts. And I'm like, okay, Tufts is more selective than the Ivies were when you went to college, by the way. Like at this point, so look beyond those rankings, realize that what was a great place for you might not be a great place for your child. And some parents do that beautifully, and other parents really, really struggle with it. And it's not that they don't love their kids, but they struggle.
And resolve to also look at the world for what it is. The world has changed in 20, 30 years. The world has changed since I applied to college. And I like to, I'm always reminding people when I was going to college, or when I was applying to college, there were probably maybe 200 million people in the country, something like that. We're now over 300 million. That's a lot more people. That's a lot more people applying to colleges and universities. And there are no greater number of spaces at colleges and universities than there were when I was applying. So things have gotten a lot more selective. And what might have been a safety or a just right, 20, 30 years ago is not necessarily the case anymore.
Exactly.
Selectivity has risen, throughout the spectrum and throughout the country. So
at the same time, I do want to emphasize that there is a college for everyone. It's just about getting that good balanced list. But the rankings is not how you're going to find that. So, or what I tell people is, if you're going to look at the rankings, look at them the right way. Any school in the top 100 is going to be amazing. Any school. So don't worry about what's number 5 versus what's number 25 versus any of those. And mind you, there's plenty of schools outside the top 100 that are great schools too. But at least don't make those sort of narrow distinctions, because those are truly meaningless.
They are. if you were looking at, where we were 100 years ago or 50 years ago, if you were to say, hey, what are the top 10 colleges, universities, that might have made sense. But given that the population has grown, you have to expand
Mhm.
what do you think of as selective. It's more like the
Exactly.
top 40, the top 50, the top 100, as you're
Mhm.
stating.
Mhm.
That's what we're looking at in terms of selectivity.
Mhm. Exactly. All right. And then what about juniors? Do you have any advice for the juniors? I mean, they can look beyond rankings too, you know?
I think what can be difficult is always looking over your shoulder and looking at what other people are doing. So, if your friend has a particular college list, just realize that that's their college list and it's not necessarily a reflection on you. So, I would think a really great resolution is to stop comparing your college list to others, because what might be a really great fit college for one person is going to be very different for another person.
Mhm.
And you have to look at your own particular background, your own particular needs, your own particular record, and try to match colleges and universities to that, rather than try to match yourself to someone else's college list.
Yeah. Even in the same family. I mean, my brother went to UC Berkeley. He loved it. I applied, I got in, and I just said, I can't go here. It's too big for
Mhm,
me. I don't like it. I don't want to be in
mhm,
lectures, you know. And so I went to Reed College, and that was a great decision that my mother was very supportive of. My dad did not understand. Why am I paying more for a school I've never heard of? You know, mind you, it wasn't that much more because I was very lucky in terms of financial aid. But yeah, respect those differences and respect that your student will wind up in the right place, you know.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
um, anything else to wrap it up? I mean, we've got.
Yeah, I would say, think of some of those personal resolutions too. It doesn't always have to be about college
Mm,
admissions, and it doesn't always have to be about academics. For me personally, as I said, this is, I think for the whole world, this has been a hard 2 years. And so, for me, on a personal level, I resolved to play a little bit more music,
mhm,
to, immerse myself in something that I love, just for the fun of it.
mhm,
So, absolutely, think of those personal resolutions too. How can we be people who connect ourselves to the world around us and to our communities out there?
mhm,
There are ways to just have joy
mhm,
in the things that you're doing. So for me,
mhm,
that's personally something that I would do. And I'd encourage a lot of our students and a lot of our parents to connect to those things that you love, and resolve to immerse yourself in them.
mhm. Yeah, one of the things I'm thinking I might want to do is take a sewing lesson. I mean, I can't fix the tiniest little tear in my clothes. I can't do any of that. Why not learn how to do that? You know, it's not too late. And then in doing that, I'll take a lesson out in the community. I will talk to people who are different from me. These things are good things to do. So, um,
Absolutely. Connection is important.
exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much, Zaragoza.
You're welcome, Sally. It's been a
Okay.
joy.
All right, everyone. We'll be back in just a few minutes with, I'll be talking to Sarah Calvert Coburn about things you need to think about now that you've submitted your applications.